The first time I went on a big rig with my mentor. We were driving at midnight when I heard someone hollering my name. Freaked me out, so I grabbed the window to check. But my mentor yanked me back inside, rolled down the window, flicked out his cigarette, and cursed loudly at the darkness outside. I was young, so I had no idea who he was yelling at. I just cowered in the passenger seat, silent. I drove trucks on my own for over 10 years after that, but never encountered anyone calling my name at night again. Until 3 days ago, I received news that my mentor had passed away. He died while opening a new route, a rule in the trucking business where an experienced driver must test out new roads before others can use them. The opening driver earns a lot of red envelopes, sometimes commissions from shipping companies, but it's super risky because you never know what might happen. My mentor was a seasoned opener when he was younger, and I learned from him. But he was 61 now, had retired, and wasn't driving anymore. So why did he go back to opening routes? I was puzzled and rushed to his funeral hall, only to find chaos. A group of rough-looking men surrounded my mentor's wife, who clutched his portrait tightly. One of them shoved her and yelled at her. I stormed over, grabbed the leader by the collar, and dragged him in front of me. I'm tall and intimidating, often compared to Zhang Fei or Li Kuei. Those guys were tough until they saw me. Then they turned into whimpering dogs. I said coldly, "I'm Dragon Long. If my mentor owed you money, come to me. If you bother his wife again, I'll cut you up." I tossed them out of the funeral hall, and they only dared give me a distant gesture. Then I kicked them out of sight. I went back inside and helped my mentor's wife, who was swaying. She put the portrait back on the altar, took my arm and said, "Long, give your mentor some incense. He always thought of you." I knelt before the altar, and my mentor's face in the picture was just as I remembered. He was a man of honor, always on the right path. I first met him on the road when I was new to the job. My first trip got me scammed onto a road that hadn't been opened yet. One night, I thought I was hearing opera and hawking from a nearby village, so I turned off the main road to check it out. But as I did, another big rig sped past me. The driver was furious and yelled through the window. I didn't know him, so I thought he was no good. I initially ignored him, but he kept tailgating me and honking nonstop. Eventually, I pulled over, and since I was already nearly 6 feet tall, I wasn't afraid. However, as soon as I stepped out, the driver grabbed my arm with a steel-like grip and pulled me toward his truck. "Where did you come from, you daredevil? Can you even drive on this road?" he asked. I was defiant, trying to reason with him. "The road is open to everyone." But he just laughed and said, "There's nothing here but mountains and wilderness. What theater are you looking for?" Suddenly, the music and voices I thought I heard turned into the howling of the wind. Felt like it was all my imagination. That day, my mentor was there to open the road. He saw me and initially thought I was an experienced driver. But when he realized I was a clueless rookie about to crash into the guardrail, he understood and helped me. I learned about opening roads from him. That road was desolate, with no villages nearby, not even a cemetery. I still wonder what that music was. After that incident, my mentor took a liking to me and made me his apprentice. I stayed with him for 2 years. His name was Kong Jia, and by the time he took me in, he had over 20 years of experience and was well known in the business. He taught me everything he knew, and I followed in his footsteps, opening roads too. At 30, I started my own logistics company and had a good life. But destiny turned in an instant. I lost my parents, my wife, and my company was bankrupted by a partner. I was deep in debt. During the toughest times, I kept it from my mentor. He was retired, and I didn't want to bother him further. But he heard about it anyway and showed up at my place with dozens of pounds of beef. Before leaving, he gave me a bank card with $20,000 and said, "Long, life isn't always smooth sailing. Let's focus on paying off your debts and starting over." I lit incense for my mentor and bowed 3 times before his portrait. His wife helped me up, and I asked, "Why did he suddenly go to open roads? What's with those men earlier? Did my mentor borrow money for me?" I worried it might be related to me. "No." His wife shook her head gently. "Your mentor never borrowed money from anyone. The money he gave you was from our savings over the years." I began to ask another question. "It's all because of my brother." A voice cut in from the door, my mentor's daughter, Kong Yi. She looked red-eyed, holding bags of paper money and incense. I quickly took them from her. "Is Lianzai in debt again?" Kong Lian was my mentor's older son. He was only 3 years younger than me, jobless and unmarried, always causing trouble. "Where is he? I haven't seen him," I realized he wasn't at the funeral hall. Who knows where he is? Maybe he's dead in some mahjong parlor. Kong-yi wiped away her tears, and I quickly pulled her to a seat. Don't cry. I'll stay here tonight. You should go back and rest with your mother. Kong-yi shook her head. I won't leave. It's the last night. I want to be with Dad. The funeral wake lasted 3 days, and tomorrow he would be cremated. Kong-yi and I stayed the final night together in the funeral hall. The silence in the darkness was chilling, and I felt uneasy gazes around us. I knew we were in a tough spot, but I vowed to accompany my mentor's wife and daughter through this dark time, seeking justice for my mentor and keeping these troubles away from us. My mentor died in a car accident. Due to his condition, there was no glass coffin at the wake, and I didn't even get to see him one last time. However, early in the morning I had a dream. I was driving a big rig on a dark road, and suddenly, I heard someone calling my name. This had happened before, and my mentor always told me that if someone calls your name while driving at night, don't respond or even look. But in my dream, I couldn't sit still because the voice sounded so familiar. It was my mentor. I reached for the window wanting to catch a glimpse, but someone slapped me from behind. I woke up with a start as it began to get light outside. I sat on the steps before my mentor's coffin, and Kong-yi was curled up in a chair, seemingly also dreaming. I looked back at the coffin and wiped away my tears. By 9 in the morning, my mentor's old colleagues started arriving. They'd all driven trucks for years, and upon hearing about his death, they lamented deeply. During the funeral, Kong Lien finally appeared, blending into the crowd. Relatives wanted to lecture him, but they forbore, given the occasion. After the cremation, Old Chun pulled me aside. Long, is it true your mentor died while opening a road? I nodded. Yes, he did it to help Kong Lien pay his debts. Old Chun sighed. Well, that's problematic. For us in this line, if we don't die on the road, we have to drive out to call back the soul during the burial rites. But since your mentor wasn't opening a road, who dares to call his soul back? Without hesitation, I said, I'll do it. I'll bring my mentor back. You can't go alone. Kong Lien must come too. He's the eldest son. His call will be most effective. Just as everyone was about to call Kong Lien back, he vanished again. Outside, Kong Yi suddenly shouted, Brother, what are you doing? Are you human? You can't just take that money. I rushed out to see Kong Lien stuffing people's condolence money into his bag. That money was meant for his mother's expenses. Now she likely had nothing left. Kong Lien put that back. I roared. My mentor sold his repair shop to help his son, and the 20,000 I gave him was gone. Don't you dare interfere, Kong Lien sneered. You think you're someone? You've taken tens of thousands from my dad before. Bright, what's wrong with you? Old Chun tried to reason. Your father isn't even buried yet. Don't cause trouble now. Kong Lien's voice grew louder. Who's causing trouble? It wasn't me who asked him to drive. Why should you blame me? His sister, Kong Yi, was crying and tried to hit him with an account book, but he slapped it to the ground. Get out. You think I care about your face? Watch out, or I'll beat you up. I rushed over, twisting Kong Lien's arm until he cried out in pain. You want to kill me? My dad hasn't even closed his eyes yet, and you dare hit me. You just wait. Long. My mentor's wife, hearing the commotion, was helped out of the funeral hall. Her face was pale and her voice was weak. Don't bother with him, let him go. Don't disturb your mentor's peace. Kong Yi was anxiously jumping on the spot. The mother fixed Kong Lien with a stern gaze. If you have any decency left, come back when it's time to call your father's soul. If not, don't come back. I'll consider you dead. If you cause trouble at home again, I'll break your legs. Don't test me. I released Kong Lien, still visibly discontent. It's just a drive. What's the big deal about opening roads or calling souls? I'll go and that's it. I don't owe you anything. I'll pay back this money. Don't act superior. Kong Lien left without looking back, leaving his mother on the verge of fainting. Kong Yi tearfully told me, Big brother, if that beast doesn't come back, I'll go with you. Dad loved me most. I'm sure I can bring him back. I patted her head. Don't worry. I'll find Kong Lien. If necessary, I'll tie him to the car. Old Chun sighed beside us. Long, be careful this time. Your mentor's path wasn't completed, and now there's a life involved. It might be even more dangerous. I nodded. Years ago, my mentor saved me. Now it's my turn to send him home. With more than half a month to my mentor's burial, I gave all my money to Kong Yi. Though she didn't want it, Her mother needed the care, and Kong Yi's salary wasn't enough after she graduated. Big sister, don't worry. I'll find a way to earn more, I reassured her. I wasn't lying to Kong Yi even though I had debt myself. I'd already paid a lot back. My way of earning money was unconventional. At 12, I saved an old Taoist who said I had demon features but a Buddha's heart, destined to eat food between the living and the dead. He gave me an 11-joint peach wood exorcism whip. I stored it away, but when my life hit rock bottom, I started offering services to cleanse haunted houses. The whip became useful then. Looking back, starting as a truck driver who opens roads wasn't far from what that old man said about eating between the living and the dead. After the funeral, I quickly visited my client, a man named Wei Zhang, introduced by a friend. He was in the liquor business, slightly overweight, but looked like a long-term bedridden patient. Wei Zhang explained he was once healthy, despite some minor health issues. But since the beginning of the year, he'd been ill, dizzy, breathless, and his whole body hurt. He visited many hospitals but found nothing wrong. His eyes were red from frustration and anger. I don't understand why I'm suffering like this. I worked hard my whole life, and now I'm barely surviving on painkillers, he cried, feeling helpless. I did so many good deeds, donated blood, gave to orphans, volunteered at a nursing home, and provided jobs for disabled people. I didn't have parents since childhood, so I wanted to help more people once I could. Wei Zhang wiped his tears, slightly mocking his own weakness. Why don't good people get good rewards? I didn't know how to comfort him, so I waited for him to calm down. Afterward, my family found many masters for me, he continued. 2 somewhat reliable ones said his destiny was interfered with, and I needed to find clues. I wasn't too sure about these things, but I kept an open mind. The only clue is this recurring dream. In the dream, I see a large stone on a mountain peak. It's under fragments of stones and red earth, a shape with a narrow top and a wide base that 2 people could hug, with red rope around it. Wei Zhang's eyes were filled with confusion. Each time I wake up from that dream, I struggle to breathe. The stone, red earth. I thought for a moment. The only place in this city with such features was Dongling Peak. I know Dongling Peak has stones like that. Wei Zhang spoke weakly. I've been there many times, walked all over the summit, but found nothing. The masters said I need someone with strong destiny to help break the illusion and find the stone. The next day, Wei Zhang and I went to Dongling Peak. He was quiet, lacking energy, only slightly perking up when his family called. I also reported back to my family. My children are taken care of by my mother-in-law. My daughter worries about me and calls daily. My son, who's younger, often sends funny cartoons to my WeChat. Dongling Peak isn't very high, but I carried a lot of equipment. Wei Zhang carried nothing and was exhausted midway. Although my home isn't in the city, it's not far away. Years ago, when I drove trucks with my mentor, I spent time near Dongling Peak. The area is familiar. As we neared the top around noon, mist began to rise, obscuring the sparse trees. Wei Zhang couldn't climb anymore, so I supported him. Why is it foggy on such a clear day? He gasped. Just a bit more, I encouraged him. Suddenly, I saw a dark figure squatting by the road. Looking closer, it seemed to be a person searching for something. I let Wei Zhang rest and walked over, but upon closer inspection, it was just a rock. I must have mistaken it. I looked further into the wilderness, and through the mist, I saw numerous stones scattered across the slope, resembling people crouched and rummaging. I shook off these strange thoughts and returned to Wei Zhang, only to find him missing from where he should be. I panicked, fearing an accident, and rushed back. He wasn't far, squatting behind a tree. How are you doing? Can you walk? Wei Zhang didn't respond. His cheeks were bulging, and he was mumbling, his hands digging into the ground. I was shocked by his state and grabbed his shoulders, turning him towards me. To my astonishment, his mouth was stuffed with stones. Seeing me, his gaze was vacant. He even tried to put more stones in his mouth. You're crazy. Spit them out. I pinned him down and forced him to spit out the stones. They were all over his mouth, and he struggled fiercely, speaking unclearly about something. I faintly heard Jade. Wei Zhang resisted, pushing me away, but I managed to remove the stones from his mouth, cutting his mouth and covering my hands in blood. He tried to pick up more stones, and I swiftly drew my exorcism whip. As I crackled it, Wei Zhang shuddered and kneeled down. Wei Zhang, I called out, and he began sobbing. Then he violently vomited. I helped him sit back, clearing his mouth of stones. Fortunately, he hadn't swallowed any. After a half-hour rest, he recovered slightly. I encouraged him to rinse his mouth and asked if he could continue climbing, to which he nodded. Even if I have to die, I want to understand what's happening, Wei Zhang said with red eyes. I supported him to the summit of Dongling Peak. As we reached the top, the thick fog began to clear. For a moment, I felt like seeing countless large stones around, but as the mist dissipated, we found none. The summit was nearly flat, covered in rubble with a sparse forest. Wei Zhang was despairing. I've been here several times, and there's truly nothing. I examined the stones closely, finding them familiar. A friend of mine owns a quarry, and I once saw similar rubble there. Has this mountain been blasted? I asked. Wei Zhang thought for a moment. He's local and more familiar with the area. Perhaps my elders mentioned it was sealed for a while decades ago. The nearby villagers heard explosions every night until one day, they found part of Dongling Peak's summit had been flattened. If true, this might mean the summit once had many large stones. Where could the one from Wei Zhang's dreams be now? I looked around. 3 sides of Dongling Peak have paths to climb up, but the northwest side is a steep cliff. I tied a safety rope to a sturdy tree and headed towards the cliff. The terrain was higher here, with solid rock beneath my feet. It was hard to find footing. Wei Zhang couldn't climb further but shouted warnings from above. I climbed to the cliff's edge, where the wind was strong. Dropping down, I saw a platform about 2 meters below, set back into the cliff face. It was hard to spot from above or below, with rickety scaffolding against the mountain. Returning to Wei Zhang, I told him about the platform below. He insisted on following me to the edge but couldn't descend. I secured my rope and began climbing down. As I reached halfway, my safety rope unexpectedly slackened. The platform was narrow and recessed. If I fell directly, I wouldn't land on it safely. Thankfully, Wei Zhang saw my predicament and lunged forward, grabbing my rope. His bulk and a stone crevice saved us both, stabilizing the rope. I pulled myself up using the scaffolding. Borrowing that moment's pause, I reached the platform. I found a dark opening in the cliff face, surrounded by axe marks, clearly man-made. On the right side of the entrance, old characters read, Dongling Peak Jade Mine. I hadn't known there was a jade mine here. I reassured Wei Zhang from below. I'm fine. There's a mine entrance here. I'll check it out. He warned me to be careful. I entered the cave with my tools and whip. The passage was wide but not deep, blocked further in. Soon I found a large stone in the center, matching Wei Zhang's dream. It was probably spared from blasting. I set down my light and prepared to break the stone with hammer and chisel. But my safety rope, previously secure, suddenly loosened. Without hesitation, I cracked the stone with force, letting out a surge of adrenaline. The mine was surprisingly wide but shallow. I quickly found the central stone with a frayed rope around it. This must be the one from Wei Zhang's dreams. I set up my light and tools, finding a stone coffin in the corner. The slab was smooth, no visible patterns. I ignored it, focusing on the stone. I circled the stone, picked a spot, and struck it with my chisel. The cave echoed with the sound, raising dust. As I continued, the stone cracked. The coffin behind me seemed to open, and a withered old man sat up in the dust. He slowly turned his head, mouth open, revealing a green jade inside. I cursed and hammered the stone further. Something suddenly pressed down on me from behind. I felt cold breath on my neck. The old man disappeared from my peripheral vision, and I was terrified. I dropped my tool and swung my whip but missed. Realizing I was running out of time, I used a stone splitter to break the rock. A surge of energy let me strike again with a heavy hammer, and the rock shattered into pieces. I fell to the ground, coughing up bloody phlegm. As I caught my breath, I felt lighter. The pressure lifted. I approached the stone slab again. It wasn't a coffin but a stone trough without a lid. Hearing Wei Zhang's worried calls from outside, I retrieved an iron box from soft red earth nearby. We opened it together, finding yellow paper filled with records of Wei Zhang's life and good deeds. There was also a sealed bag containing a deep red liquid with a jade piece inside. We headed back to town, Wei Zhang noticing his pain had eased, though he felt tired. He'd investigate the jade and let me know. As for the paper, he guessed who might have written it based on his life events. Driving back, we passed through the area known for making coffins and paper offerings. Most factories were closed now, but old advertisements remained. One phrase caught my eye, In this life, accumulate virtue and hold jade in your mouth. In the next, enjoy good fortune. It clicked why there were so many death-related businesses around Dongling Peak. It must be related to the old jade mine. However, accumulating virtue isn't something anyone can do. For the job with Wei Zhong, I earned a substantial sum of $80,000. Besides paying off my own debts, I also needed to support Kong Yi and my mentor's wife. Fortunately, Kong Lian's creditors hadn't come knocking recently. Maybe he'd paid them off himself. Due to my injuries, I didn't dare return home immediately. My kids were young, and I didn't want to scare them, so I stayed at a friend's place to recover. Soon, the 7th day of my mentor's passing approached. To my surprise, Kong Lian showed up at my door, rather nonchalantly. Seeing me still driving an old cargo van, he sneered, "My dad used to praise you, but look at you now." I ignored him, focusing on the ritual items his mother had prepared: spirit flags, paper money, and my mentor's plaque. They needed to be in the truck. My mentor's wife reminded us to be careful on the road, stressing safety above all else. She said my mentor would be worried if anything happened to us. I reassured her and set off with Kong Lian. The road where my mentor died was far away, winding through southern mountains. It connected isolated villages with limited access to the outside world, making it challenging for local products to reach markets. Many eerie rumors circulated about this route due to its isolation. We left 2 days early, stopping several times along the way. Kong Lian had been frail since childhood and was often left behind, making his parents feel guilty about him. We needed to be on the road where my mentor passed away by the 7th night to call his soul. That morning, we reached the departure town, a small county town, where Kong Lian insisted on dining out. The town was impoverished, with few restaurants, and we found one that was practically outdoor and had an outhouse in the garden. After eating, Kong Lian went to the restroom. I waited outside for over 10 minutes, growing worried he might have run off, so I went to find him. The garden had lush vegetation with many trellises, and a large cinnamomum camphora tree shaded most of the light near the outhouse. I knocked on the door. "Kong Lian, are you still in there?" There was no response. The door was hung from the inside, and I could see through a gap. I shouted louder, but there was no answer. I tried calling his phone, and the ringtone came from inside the outhouse. Without hesitation, I kicked open the door. A white figure rushed out, and Kong Lian fell, crying out, "There's a ghost! There's a ghost!" He panicked, struggling to stand up with his pants down. I helped him up and went back to the outhouse, but it was empty. "It was just now, right here." Kong Lian pointed near the water bucket, opposite the toilet enclosure. I thought someone was waiting to use the bathroom, so I told them to wait outside. But then I couldn't open the door. I calmly told him to stop frightening himself. Outside, the restaurant was deserted. The counter had drinks, and cash drawers were open, but there was an eerie silence. Kong Lian began shouting for the owner, but soon realized no one was around. We left, returning to our vehicle. "Let's go, don't waste time," I said. As we drove through the small county town, there were few pedestrians. Occasionally, we saw elderly people sitting under their house eaves, watching us pass. Once on the main road, Kong Lian revived, joking about his encounter. "You think I really met a ghost?" He boasted about his courage around the dead. I remained silent. We passed through a tunnel, and suddenly, it grew dark. The landscape became ominous with mountains on both sides. Kong Lian took photos with his phone, exclaiming about the scenery. As we emerged, the sky darkened prematurely. "How is it so dark already?" he asked. Suddenly, a screeching sound came from behind us. It seemed a car was out of control and heading towards us. Kong Lian gripped the safety bar, covering his head, but no car appeared. "What's going on?" he asked, looking around. I remained calm. "It's possible the heat caused the asphalt to expand, making sounds," I explained. Kong Lian snorted, leaning back. We turned a corner and saw a damaged guardrail, with a clear skid mark on the road. Kong Lian's expression changed as he swallowed hard. I didn't comment. Such accidents were common on twisty roads with limited visibility. We drove for another hour, and night began to fall. Heavy rain started, reducing visibility. I slowed down and turned on all lights, but the rain was intense, overwhelming the windshield wipers. The road was a series of turns, with few cars due to the newness of the road. Suddenly, people appeared on both sides, some with raincoats or umbrellas. Their faces were obscured by the rain. "How can there be so many people?" Kong Lian asked softly, fear creeping into his voice. Maybe it's just the heavy rain, I replied, maintaining a steady pace. At first, people stayed on the roadside, but gradually, some crossed onto the highway. They didn't approach us head-on but walked in our direction. What are these people doing? Kong Lian slid down, uneasy. They're crazy. If there's an accident, they should call the police. Why are they following us? We continued driving. The rain eased, and the followers fell back. Suddenly, a car's hazard lights appeared ahead. As we approached, we saw a black sedan parked by the road. A person stood behind it, waving for attention. Doesn't he see those weird people behind us? Kong Lian asked, watching. Open the window and ask what he wants, I instructed. Kong Lian did so and asked if the man needed help. The response was unclear due to the rain. We drove past the sedan without stopping. His driver remained in place but didn't seem urgent. Kong Lian scowled and closed the window. About half an hour later, we saw hazard lights again. As we got closer, Kong Lian jerked up. Brother? How is it the same person? Indeed, it was the same black sedan and driver. However, this time the car was damaged, windows shattered, tail light missing. The driver stood there, signaling again. Kong Lian ducked down, terrified. Step on it. This isn't right. I accelerated, passing the car. It was almost 5, and Kong Lian checked the map on his phone, muttering, Is this a ghost wall? But we're moving forward. What's going on? Stay calm, I advised. Remember, we're in the middle of opening a road. Kong Lian glanced at me, his hand trembling. Ahead, we saw more hazard lights. Kong Lian covered his face. It was the same car and driver again, but the car was more damaged now. The driver's face was bleeding. If this happens again, open the window and ask him what he wants, I instructed. Kong Lian was terrified. You're crazy. You don't know what that thing is. Do you want to get us killed? I glared at him. If you don't do it, I'll toss you out right now. He nervously swallowed his spit. The hazard lights appeared again, and I slowed down, encouraging Kong Lian to open the window. The driver's voice was clearer this time, though strained by blood in his throat. He warned, Don't stop in the rain. Don't let them get in. The sedan was now just a frame, covered in overgrown plants. The driver was nearly nude and had a sunken head. Kong Lian turned to me, confused. I accelerated, noticing followers in the rearview mirror. We reached the accident site at 9 p.m. The rain hadn't fully stopped, casting a fine mist. The road was barricaded, with a shattered car light visible outside the guardrail. Kong Lian refused to get out. Those weirdos are still following us. Are you crazy? You're trying to kill me. I yelled back at Kong Lian. You fear what? Your dad is here. I slapped him. Why did he come here? What do you think he was doing? I'm to blame for his death. I'm useless, Kong Lian cried. Since words didn't work, I pulled him out of the car. He struggled wildly as I dragged him to the road, pinned him down. Don't you feel your parents owe you? You think you're special? I pressed him to the ground. You see how your dad died for you? You're going to experience it today. If you don't cooperate, I'll leave you here, I threatened, making him promise to follow my instructions. I handed him his father's plaque. We began the soul-calling ritual at 9:30. Dad, kick him, I said, prompting Kong Lian to chant the invocation. As we walked, he cried, Dad, come back. Dad, I was wrong. We had to take 999 steps, repeating the chant. Around us, the atmosphere shifted. Sounds from the woods diminished. Shadows appeared outside, and I urged Kong Lian to continue. As we finished, our car lights flickered and died. The followers quickened their pace. I pushed Kong Lian into the car and drew my exorcism whip, striking it loudly 3 times. The followers vanished. Our car nearly crashed into the mountain, but I steered it back onto the road. I grabbed the broken headlight left at the accident site, which seemed to be the source of the blinding light. This was all that remained of my mentor's truck. Kong Lian developed a high fever after returning home but insisted on attending his father's burial. I didn't know if this experience would change him, but it would likely have an impact. After the burial, I headed home. Shortly, I received a call from Wei Zhang. He'd fully recovered and no longer needed medication. He'd investigated the jade and Dongling Peak. It turned out the jade from Dongling Peak wasn't of high quality due to its red soil, which caused blood veins in the jade. However, some believed this blood jade was ideal for the deceased to hold in their mouths. accumulating virtue and ensuring prosperity in the next life. Locals began seeking this jade, even sneaking to Dongling Peak to find scraps. Wei Zhang's life records had been used to infuse those virtues into the jade, which was then sold. He learned his childhood friend had sold his life records for $20,000. Wei Zhang sighed, initially feeling cold-hearted, thinking about ceasing good deeds to avoid harm. However, he reflected that it was his good deeds that led him to dream about the stone and meet me. Therefore, he concluded that good people do receive good rewards.